Hey guys, if you were born a tiny, wriggling bundle in the golden age of ancient Egypt, you'd be blinking up into a world that seemed both endless and impossibly bright. The kind of brightness that makes your eyelids instinctively squeeze shut while the hot desert air folds itself over you like a blanket you never asked for. You'd be swaddled in soft, loosely woven linen strips, the fabric smelling faintly of the barley straw that hung in the air from nearby granaries, and of the faint perfume of blue lotus oil that midwives sometimes dabbed on newborns to calm their cries. The room around you wouldn't be a sterile hospital, more likely a clay-walled home or the shaded corner of a courtyard where shafts of sunlight spill in and dance on dust motes as women murmur in low voices, their hands moving with a mix of tenderness and ancient precision. Somewhere nearby, someone would be fanning incense smoke over your tiny form, not for your comfort exactly, but to keep wandering spirits and bothersome insects away. You probably won't survive this, the statistics of infant mortality in your time being alarmingly high, but no one will say that aloud. Instead, they'll wrap you tighter and place protective amulets near your head, muttering blessings that have been passed down for centuries. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The midwife, a stern woman with skin creased from years under the sun, leans over you with a small clay bowl of natron water, her bracelets clinking softly as she works. She rubs the mineral-rich liquid gently over your soft skin, and the faint fizz against your body feels strangely warm, meant to purify you in both the physical and spiritual sense. You don't understand it yet, but natron, this chalky, salty mixture dug from dry lake beds, will be as essential to life as to death here. It will clean, preserve, and protect in ways your modern self might associate with soap, antiseptic, and even a bit of magic. The women laugh quietly when you squirm, one of them whispering that a strong kick means you'll grow into a healthy child, though another mutters that it might just mean you dislike the cold splash, an opinion as old as midwives themselves. Your parents stand nearby, each playing their role in this first stage of your life. Your mother, flushed from labor, watches you with eyes that flicker between relief and worry. She's young, perhaps no more than 17, her hair braided and oiled, her linen dress clinging where the heat has dampened it. Your father, a little awkward in the corner, smells faintly of the river. He has rushed from work to be here, hands still rough from pulling nets or shaping mud bricks depending on his trade. He tries to seem stoic, but his gaze softens each time it lands on you. This is your first portrait in the gallery of life. Small, pinkish-brown skin that will deepen in the sun, a head of fine, dark fuzz that will likely be shaved within weeks, and eyes that dart around like a tiny scribe already trying to take in every detail of the world.
Outside, the streets are alive with noises you can't yet place. The bray of a donkey cart rolling by, the metallic clatter of bronze tools, a vendor's sing-song call advertising fresh dates. These sounds filter through the clay walls like the muffled rhythm of a drum, wrapping your earliest moments in a constant reminder that life in ancient Egypt is never still for long. Above it all, the sun burns down on the flat roofs, heating the air until it seems to shimmer. Flies hover where they shouldn't, and a boy runs past the doorway with a jug of water balanced on his head, the liquid slashing but never spilling. Danger isn't a stranger to your birth scene. Illness can slip in on a breeze. Infections can take hold with terrifying speed. And the Nile itself, though giver of life, hides hazards from crocodiles to waterborne diseases. To guard you against these unseen threats, your family ties a tiny bead of carnelian to the cloth at your chest, believing it will deflect harm. It glints briefly in the light, a bright dot against the muted linen, a reminder that here, beauty and protection often come wrapped in the same package. You are small, no more than a couple of kilograms, but you are already part of a system older than the pyramids, one in which every stage of life has its rituals, scents, and textures. Someone hums a lullaby that drifts like smoke, its words about the river's blessing and the sun's patience, though the tune itself has been sung so often it feels carved into the walls. As you are passed from arm to arm, the heat of each body leaves a different mark on your skin. Your mother's warmth dampened with exhaustion, your grandmother's hands cooler but firmer, your father's tentative hold surprisingly steady. Before long, the linen wraps cling a little tighter, both to keep you secure and to help your limbs grow straight, or so tradition claims. Your world now is a narrow one. The smell of incense and lotus oil, the feel of natron-dusted linen, the rhythm of soft voices in a language that curls like the edges of papyrus. You don't yet know that the same minerals cleansing you today will one day be used to preserve you after death, nor that the oils rubbed into your skin are part of a beauty and hygiene legacy stretching back centuries. All you know is the flicker of shadow and light across the room, the soft brush of fingers across your cheek, and the way the air seems to hum with life.
You are barely days old when your next ritual arrives, and it is less a casual bath than a deliberate cleansing, one that feels as though the entire household has stopped to make sure you enter the world properly polished, inside and out. You are carried out into a shaded courtyard where the light filters through woven reed mats above, breaking into patterns that dance across the clay floor. The midwife, who now regards you like a small project she intends to see through to the end, is already waiting with a basin of water infused with natron and crushed lotus petals, the scent rising in soft, almost sweet waves. The mineral tang of the natron lingers at the edge of the air, like chalk and salt mingling, promising both cleanliness and protection. This is not a hurried dip in cold water. It is a slow and steady ritual, as much about guarding your spirit as about scrubbing your skin. Your tiny body is unwrapped, the linen folds loosen to reveal skin that is still soft enough to crease with every movement. The midwife hums low in her throat as she dribbles the warm, scented water over you, not splashing so much as coaxing the liquid to cling. She works methodically, your head first, as if this will ensure clear thoughts, then your chest, your limbs, each finger and toe rubbed gently with a small piece of linen dipped in the fragrant bath. The natron is slightly grainy, giving a subtle scrub that is said to ward off illness, a form of ancient exfoliation that removes not only dirt, but the lingering traces of whatever the desert wind might have brought in. Your mother sits nearby, her hands resting in her lap, watching every movement with an expression that hovers between pride and worry. She knows the Nile's gifts well, the fertile silt, the fish, the water itself, but she also knows it's dangerous, which is why she approves of every measure taken to shield you from harm. At her side, a shallow dish of perfumed oil waits, the surface shimmering under the dim light, ready to be smoothed over your skin the moment the drying is done. In this climate, oil is not a luxury, it is a necessity, sealing in moisture against the relentless heat and dust. Around you, the household moves at a slower pace during these moments. A sibling peeks from behind a doorway, curious but wary of the midwife's authority. A neighbor, invited for the occasion, offers a small bundle of dried herbs tied with palm fiber, muttering a blessing under her breath. Even the family cat, a lean, striped creature, curls near the threshold, tail flicking in lazy acknowledgement of your presence. In a place where life can change with the flooding of the river or the turn of the wind, small acts of protection like this bathing ritual feel like pebbles stacked against a tide. Perhaps futile, but no one here would dare skip them. The water that pools beneath you carries a faint shimmer from the oils of the lotus petals, their scent mingling with the warm, mineral smell in a way that will become one of your earliest sensory memories. Somewhere in the background, you hear the slap of wet laundry against stone, the rhythm of a daily life that hums along no matter how sacred your own moment feels. That is the way of this world. Your milestones will always share space with the mundane.
When the last of the natron water has been poured, your skin is patted dry with a length of soft linen, finer than what most people wear, but still plain, its fibers smoothed by repeated washing in river water. The perfumed oil is then warmed between the midwife's palms and stroked gently across your limbs, your belly, your back, leaving a faint golden sheen that catches in the light. This oil is thick, Not like the thin slickness of modern lotions. It clings, it lingers. It makes you smell faintly of flowers and resin and something deeper, something earthy. In the minds of those who care for you, this is the scent of a healthy child. As the oil settles into your skin, your mother ties a fresh amulet at your ankle, a tiny bead carved from turquoise, a color believed to mirror the waters of the Nile and draw its blessings toward you. She does it with a soft murmur, a private hope that the river's life will flow into your veins. Your father, returning from a morning of labor, steps into the courtyard just in time to see you swaddled once again, your small form neat and secure, ready to face the dust and sun beyond the walls. The day stretches on, and you will spend most of it sleeping in a shaded corner, the scent of your bath lingering, a soft barrier against the more intrusive smells of daily life, smoke from cooking fires, the acrid tang of drying fish, the faint sourness of damp clay floors. Even now, you are learning to breathe in a way that filters out the harshness and lets the sweetness linger. You don't know it yet, but this pattern, cleanse, protect, scent, will repeat itself in endless variations throughout your life, a quiet ritual woven so tightly into your days that you may forget it is even there until the moment it isn't.
You are now a little sturdier, your tiny body filling out, your eyes more focused, and your hands starting to grasp at things they could not before, like the loose strands of your mother's dress or the soft tassels of a woven mat. The world smells richer now, not because anything has changed in the air, but because your senses are beginning to map each scent to a place, a person, or a feeling. The early childhood scents that fill your days are not faint background notes. They are constant companions, as much a part of you as the linen that wraps your body. Every morning begins with the aroma of lotus blossoms, brought in fresh from the riverbanks. Their petals are pressed between damp cloths to keep them from wilting, and the faintly sweet, slightly fruity fragrance settles in the air like a whisper that clings to your skin and hair. The courtyard, where you spend much of your waking time, is a mingling of smells that would overwhelm someone unaccustomed to them, but for you, they are comfort itself. Frankincense burns slowly in a clay censer, its smoke winding in thin ribbons that drift lazily upward before curling against the shade canopy overhead. It is not burned constantly, resin is precious, but often enough that you begin to associate its warm, resinous perfume with the safety of home. The scent clings to your mother's linen tunic, faint but persistent, so that even when she is away drawing water, her presence seems to hover beside you. Herbs, too, form a part of your personal atmosphere. Crushed coriander and fenugreek seeds are sometimes scattered on the floor to deter pests, and the scent rises each time someone passes, a dry, nutty smell mingling with the sharper tang of fresh mint growing in pots along the wall. When the heat presses down hardest in the afternoon, your grandmother fans you gently with palm fronds, while a shallow dish of crushed herbs and water sits nearby, releasing a damp, green aroma that almost tricks the air into feeling cooler. Your tiny cotton tunics, woven loosely so your skin can breathe, are never washed in plain water. They're rinsed in river water mixed with ground herbs, then dried in the shade so they do not lose their faint perfume. At night, as you drift to sleep, you sometimes bury your face in the fabric and breathe in the day's residue, lotus, mint, and the faintest trace of smoke, unaware that you are memorizing a scent language spoken only here and now. The most unexpected fragrance in your daily life comes from something more humble: freshly ground herbs used for both cooking and skincare. You watch from your small woven cradle as your mother or aunt kneels at a low table, her hands working a stone pestle against a flat grinder, the rhythm steady and sure. She mashes basil, fenugreek, and cumin with a splash of oil, the paste destined not for food but for the skin. These aromatic mixtures are dabbed on faces to soften and cool the flesh, or to scent the skin before a festival. Sometimes, a tiny dot is tapped onto your own forehead, making you smell briefly like a spice merchant's stall. Even the Nile itself has a scent that seeps into your days, though you rarely visit it yet. It is carried in on your father's clothes, the mineral tang of the water mixed with the silt's earthy richness, a smell like wet clay and sun-warmed reeds. It is faint, but it lingers long after he has set down his baskets of jars, and you come to know it as the smell of return, the sign that your family is whole again for the evening. Fragrance in this world is not merely pleasant, it is armor, a way of defining your space in a land where the air can be unforgiving. The lotus calms your spirit, the frankincense guards against unseen forces, and the herbs keep away insects and illness. You will grow to understand that beauty here is never just for beauty's sake. It is inseparable from health, protection, and the rhythm of survival. But for now, you simply breathe it all in, tiny lungs filling with the same scents that filled the air centuries before you, in the days when other children were cradled in other courtyards under the same steady Egyptian sun.
You are still too small to hold a mirror, yet already the people around you are painting your face with the same care they would give a temple wall. Your eyes, still wide and curious, become the center of a daily ritual that blends beauty with medicine, devotion with practicality. A fine stick, carved from palm wood or bronze, is dipped into a tiny pot of deep green malachite paste, ground to a soft powder, and mixed with animal fat or plant oil until it spreads like smooth paint. The midwife, or sometimes your mother herself, leans close enough for you to smell the faint metallic tang of the mineral as she draws a careful line along your eyelids. This is not done in haste. It is slow, deliberate, as if each stroke seals a protective charm into your skin. The malachite's green shimmer, bright under the morning sun, is more than decoration. In this heat, flies are a constant menace, and the fine dust of the desert often swirls into the air, carrying invisible threats that can inflame eyes. The coating of malachite, combined with the oil's slick barrier, keeps both pests and infections at bay, acting as a kind of shield that will follow you into adulthood. Later in life, you'll learn that the same mixture is worn by workers in the fields and nobles in palace courtyards alike, proof that beauty and health are partners here, not rivals. Some days, instead of green, your lids are rimmed in the smoky black of coal, made by grinding galena, a lead-rich mineral, until it becomes a fine powder, then blending it with animal fat or gum. The texture is softer, and the color deepens your gaze, making your eyes seem larger, more defined, like the painted figures on tomb walls. The coal's coolness is almost refreshing when applied, a fleeting relief against the morning heat. And it carries the same protective reputation as the malachite, warding off the glare of the sun and the intrusion of insects. When the painting is done, you are held up briefly so that the light catches your eyes, and your mother smiles at the result. To her, this is as much about marking you as a cared-for child as it is about preventing sickness. Even infants are expected to reflect the values of their household and to appear before the gods and neighbors as clean, prepared, and pleasing.
The pigments themselves are small treasures in their own right. Malachite arrives from the Sinai mines, its raw stones glinting like frozen river water before being crushed to powder. Galena is carried in from far-flung quarries, a dull silver ore transformed into the rich black that will frame your eyes. These minerals are kept in lidded pots, often carved from alabaster or shaped from clay, stored on a shelf away from the dust. Your earliest toys, if they can be called that, are not carved animals or beads, but the small sticks and smooth stones left over from grinding these pigments, their shapes familiar under your curious fingers. While you sit on your mother's lap, her hand steadying your head for the application, the household moves around you in its usual rhythm. Someone is baking bread in the corner,
the scent of yeast and warm flour mingling with the sharper smell of ground mineral. A sibling laughs outside, chasing a goat along the narrow lane, the sound briefly drawing your gaze away before a gentle tap brings your focus back. This painting of the eyes is not an interruption to the day. It is stitched into its fabric, a thread that runs alongside cooking, cleaning, and tending animals. Even in the marketplace, you will later see infants like yourself, their faces framed by lines of coal so dark it is almost startling against their skin. You will hear older women say that a child without painted eyes is unprotected, not only from the sun's glare but from the jealous glance of strangers. Beauty here is a kind of barrier, as functional as a wall, as necessary as the linen that shields your skin. You are too young to understand the deeper layers of this practice, that it is also an offering to the gods, an echo of the painted eyes of statues meant to watch over the living. For now, you only feel the soft pressure of the stick, the faint coolness of the pigment, and the warmth of the arms that hold you steady. As the day stretches ahead, the shimmer of malachite or the deep shadow of coal will frame your view of the world, turning each blink into a moment steeped in a tradition older than the very streets you will someday walk.
By the time you are old enough to sit on your own without toppling over, your head has already been shaved more than once. The soft, downy fuzz you were born with replaced by the smooth, warm curve of skin that gleams faintly in the sun. The decision is not a matter of fashion alone. Here, in the constant heat, hair is more a liability than a crown, a place for lice to hide and sweat to cling. A shaved head is cooler, cleaner, and far easier to tend. Though the first time you felt the scraping pull of a copper razor across your scalp, you squirmed and made your displeasure known to everyone within earshot. Still, the midwife persisted, and when she smoothed the little palm oil across the freshly bared skin, it caught the light like polished stone. You are not left bareheaded for long. Once the hair is gone, your mother reaches for a small, carefully braided wig. No grand cascade like the ones worn by nobility at festivals, but a simple, tight arrangement of strands bound with plant fiber, scented faintly with resin. These wigs are as much about protection as appearance. They shield the scalp from the fierce sun and mark you as someone whose family cares about grooming and order. On special days, the wig is dusted with powdered myrrh or given a light glaze of oil to deepen its sheen, and if you are lucky, a tiny bead or charm might be woven into it for good fortune. Combs become familiar objects long before you can use them yourself. In the courtyard, you watch your parents sit together in the late afternoon light, each taking turns running fine-toothed ivory or wooden combs through the other's hair or wig. Your father, if his work allows him to keep a little hair, leans forward as your mother untangles and smooths it, the comb catching in knots that release with a quiet snap. Your mother's own wig, more elaborate than yours, is taken apart strand by strand every so often, cleaned, rescented, and rebuilt with a patience that seems endless. Shaving is not a once-in-a-while event. It is part of the weekly rhythm. A shallow bronze basin is filled with water warmed in the sun, and a mixture of natron and oil is worked into a paste that softens hair for removal. For your father, a sharp-edged flake of copper or bronze is drawn carefully across the scalp and sometimes the face, while for you, the blade is used with a lighter, almost teasing touch. A mist patch is not tolerated. Smoothness here is a mark of discipline and care.
There is a sensory comfort to these moments. The sound of the comb's teeth sliding through hair, the faint creak of leather straps on the barber's tools, the fragrance of resin oil released when a wig is freshened. You grow to recognize these cues as signs that you are clean, cared for, and prepared to be seen. The smell of cedar oil in particular lingers in your memory, sharp yet warm, a scent that clings to your pillow long after you have been laid down for the night. For the wealthier families you will glimpse later in life, wigs are a canvas for artistry. The strands may be dyed a deep blue-black or even a reddish hue. Curled in tight spirals or left in heavy, straight falls that sway like the Nile's reeds. Some are adorned with gold beads, others with delicate inlays of faience, each detail catching the sun in a way that says, "This person is worth looking at." But even the simplest wig, like yours, carries pride. Braided evenly, free of tangles and kept lightly perfumed so that it leaves a trace in the air when you pass. In the evenings, when the heat eases and the courtyard cools, the shaved heads of your family gleam in the twilight, smooth as river stones. You are too young to realize it, but this act of keeping the head clean and cool is as much about survival as it is about beauty. Lice, in this climate, can spread like a shadow over the household, bringing discomfort and even illness. A shaved head denies them a home, and the wig, detachable, washable, and replaceable, becomes a flexible solution that the desert has made timeless. Someday, when your own hands are steadier, you will learn the small rituals yourself. The angle of the comb, the balance of oil and resin, the way to twist a braid so it holds its shape without pulling too tight. For now, you sit still, feeling the gentle tug of the wig being adjusted, the faint scratch of the comb at your scalp, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that in a land where the sun rules everything, your head is always ready to meet it.
Your days begin to take on a rhythm, not just of meals and naps, but of grooming, a shared language of touch and care that passes between you and your family as naturally as breathing. In the cool shade of the courtyard, when the sun is still climbing, your mother settles herself on a low stool with you in her lap, a small pot of perfumed oil beside her, and a fine-toothed comb ready. She dips her fingers into the oil and smooths it over your arms and legs, working it in with slow, circular motions, her bracelets making a faint chime each time her hands move. The oil is thick, drawn from castor or moringa seeds, sometimes softened with a touch of animal fat, and it leaves your skin glowing in the early light. You are too young to know the word moisture, but you know the feeling of being sealed against the dryness that cracks the air. Across from you, your father is having his own grooming attended to. Your older sister sits behind him, combing through the short stubble left after his weekly shave, her small fingers surprisingly deft as she searches for any uneven patches or dust tangled in the growth. The scene is quiet, but not silent. There is a rhythm to the scrape of the comb's teeth, to the soft slap of an oiled cloth against skin, to the occasional laugh when someone leans the wrong way or twitches under a ticklish touch. Your grandmother joins in, sometimes taking over from your mother, her hands firmer, the strokes longer, as if she is not just grooming you, but shaping you for the world outside these walls. She has a knack for finding stray hairs that escape the last shave, plucking them quickly with a bronze tweezer before you can squirm away. The slight sting is followed by a dab of oil, and, just for you, a quiet hum of a tune older than her own memory. Even your siblings have their role. The youngest, only a little older than you, will fetch the small alabaster jars of scented paste from a shelf, careful not to spill, and hand them over as if they are treasures. Sometimes they watch closely, trying to imitate the slow, smoothing motion on their own arms or legs, though they often end up slick with oil in all the wrong places. The act of grooming is not reserved for the grown. Everyone, from the smallest to the eldest, participates in some way.
It is in these moments that beauty and hygiene become inseparable from family intimacy. Here, there is no rush. Each task is drawn out, not because it must take long, but because no one wants it to end too soon. The heat outside will always return. The dust will always settle back on your skin, but for now, the oil's sheen and the faint fragrance of myrrh or cinnamon form a small protective world around you. The tools of grooming are as familiar to you as the sounds of your home. The combs, some carved from ivory with delicate patterns, others from polished wood, are kept in a woven basket with the bronze razors and tweezers. Cloths for polishing skin are folded neatly beside them, the fibers soft from repeated washing in river water. When one wears out, it is not discarded, but repurposed for smaller tasks, like wiping the edges of a comb or polishing a wig's ties. Sometimes these rituals take place indoors, especially when the wind carries too much grit from the desert. The air in the main room is dimmer, cooler, and scented with the faint smoke of incense that curls upward from a small burner. Your mother sits cross-legged here, working the oil into your father's arms,
her hands gliding easily over muscle hardened by days of labor. In return, he might polish her comb or repair the handle of a razor with a strip of leather. These exchanges are quiet, wordless affirmations that grooming is not vanity, it is mutual care, a statement that each person is worth tending to. And in the evenings, when the day's heat fades and the courtyard cools again, the grooming resumes, this time slower, more languid. The oil is warmer from sitting in the sun all day. The combs move more lazily through hair or over scalps, and the conversations are softer, often just murmurs about the weather or a story from the past. You are passed from one lap to another, each person taking their turn to smooth, adjust, or admire, until the scent of resin and the steady rhythm of hands lull you towards sleep. These moments will shape you more than you realize. Later, when you are older and the world asks more of you, you will still seek the comfort of these shared grooming rituals, not just for the cleanliness they bring, but for the sense of belonging they carry, the proof that in this house you are cared for, you are seen, and you are always, in some way, being made ready for the day ahead.
The Nile is not far from your home, its steady, slow-moving surface catching the sunlight like a sheet of polished bronze. You are still too small to walk there alone, but your parents often carry you when the day is especially hot or when the weekly bathing day arrives. The journey itself feels like an adventure. Past clay-walled homes where neighbors wave lazily, down narrow lanes where goats and children weave between baskets of onions and figs, and finally out into the open stretch where the river widens and the air grows cooler. Even before you see the water, you smell it, a mingling of wet clay, reeds, and that faint mineral tang that clings to skin long after you've left the shore. Bathing at the Nile is a public affair, though it is done with modesty and a certain unspoken etiquette. Women gather in groups, their linen dresses tied up above the knee, laughter carrying easily across the water as they wash children, laundry, and sometimes even small goats in the shallows. Men bathe further downstream, wading deeper, their voices lower, their movements slower, the rhythm of splashing mixing with the thud of wooden poles pushing fishing boats along. You're dipped carefully into the shallows, the water warm from the sun and surprisingly soft against your skin. It clings differently from the natron baths at home, its smoothness broken only by the gentle push and pull of the current against your small body. Here, cleanliness is not only about removing dust and sweat, it is about belonging. Bathing in the river means joining the daily heartbeat of your community, hearing gossip traded over splashing water, learning who has returned from a journey, whose harvest has failed, and whose eldest daughter is soon to marry. Even as a baby, you absorb the tone of these exchanges, the way voices rise and fall, sometimes punctuated by a bark of laughter, sometimes softening to whispers when a story turns delicate. There is another place for bathing too, the public bathhouse, used more often in the towns. Your family visits rarely, but when they do, you notice how the space feels different from the open river. The bathhouse is dim and warm, the air heavy with steam scented faintly of herbs. Water is drawn from the Nile, but filtered through sand and stored in large jars, then warmed in the sun. People enter in turns, washing themselves with natron paste and rough linen cloths, the sound of water sloshing in basins echoing against the plastered walls. It is quieter here than at the river, almost meditative, as if the bathhouse itself demands a slower pace.
At the river, your hairless scalp glistens in the light, droplets catching in tiny rivulets before rolling down the back of your neck. Your mother's hands, strong but gentle, cup water over your head again and again, her movements deliberate. She rubs a mixture of natron and crushed mint leaves into your skin, the faint herbal scent drifting up each time she leans in. Then, with a smooth motion, she dips you under the water and lifts you back into the sun, where the heat wraps around you like a second skin. The danger is always present, even in these peaceful moments. The Nile is home to crocodiles and hippos, both of which can appear suddenly and without warning. Older children are told to stay near the shallows, and even adults keep a wary eye on the water's edge. Illness, too, can flow unseen in the current, though no one speaks of it much here. Instead, protective amulets are worn, and prayers to Sobek, the crocodile god, are whispered before stepping into the water. The social side of bathing is perhaps its most enduring feature. Women exchange beauty tips, how to keep skin soft during the dry season, which herbs make the best hair oils, where to find the freshest lotus blossoms. Men debate the strength of the year's flood or the latest shipment of copper from the mines. Children splash one another with wild delight until a stern glance from a mother or grandmother restores order. When it is time to leave, your skin feels both cleaner and somehow more alive, the faint grit of the river's silt drying in patterns on your arms and legs. Your mother wraps you in a soft linen cloth, its fibers slightly damp from the humid air, and carries you back through the narrow lanes toward home. You are drowsy from the sun, your head resting against her shoulder, the scent of river water and mint still clinging to your skin. This mingling of necessity, community, and simple pleasure will be part of your life for as long as you live, an unbroken thread from your earliest days to your final years, woven through the sound of lapping water and the steady hum of voices along the Nile's edge.
The first time you are allowed to sit nearby while perfume is made, you watch as if witnessing a magician's work. The process happens in the dim coolness of the back room, away from the dust and heat, where shelves are lined with alabaster jars, clay pots, and bundles of herbs hanging upside down from the rafters. Your mother sits cross-legged on a woven mat, a low stone grinder in front of her. Beside her are bowls of petals, fresh lotus, delicate blue and white, crushed myrrh resin in amber-brown lumps, sprigs of sweet marjoram, and a heap of cinnamon bark brought from traders who have traveled across deserts and seas. The air is already thick with their mingled fragrance, almost dizzying, and you feel the heaviness of it sink into your skin. She begins with the petals, their softness folding under the weight of the pestle, releasing a scent so pure and immediate it feels like breathing in sunlight on water. The crushed flowers are mixed with warm moringa oil in a shallow bronze pan, the liquid turning the faintest shade of gold. It is stirred slowly, as though haste might scare away the perfume itself. The resin comes next, ground fine until it clings in sticky clumps, then blended into the oil, deepening the scent with its warm, earthy sweetness. Cinnamon is added in the smallest pinch, just enough to give the mixture a faint, sharp edge that lingers in the nose. You are given the job of fanning the mixture while it warms over a small charcoal brazier, your tiny reed fan stirring the air so that the heat stays even. Each puff sends a new wave of scent toward you, and you breathe it in without realizing that you are memorizing the layers: the bright opening of the lotus, the round warmth of myrrh, the spicy undercurrent of cinnamon. The oil thickens slightly as it warms, taking on a richer hue, and when it is just right, your mother pours it through a linen cloth to strain out the solids. The clear, fragrant liquid drips slowly into a waiting alabaster jar, each drop a small treasure. Perfume is not only for festival days here, it is woven into daily life. A dab of scented oil at the base of the neck in the morning, a touch smoothed into hair before visiting neighbors, a cone of solid perfume balanced on the head during feasts so that it melts in the heat and perfumes the air. Your family's perfume making is mostly for household use, but on rare occasions, a small jar is given as a gift, wrapped in linen and tied with a reed cord. Such a gift carries weight, for to give someone perfume is to offer them comfort, status, and protection all at once.
The making of perfume is a shared art in the household. Your grandmother prefers heavier scents, more resin, more cinnamon, while your aunt leans toward the bright and floral, favoring rose petals when they can be found. Arguments over which combination is truly the best play out in good humor, the air growing thick with competing samples as each person insists theirs will last longer on the skin. Even your father, who rarely comments on such things, will lean over a jar and nod in approval or wrinkle his nose if the cinnamon has been overdone. The storage of these oils is as important as their creation. The alabaster jars are cool to the touch, their stone keeping the oil fresh longer, while clay jars are sealed with a plug of beeswax to hold in the scent. A shelf near the sleeping area holds the family's small collection, the jars lined up like sentinels. Over time, the very wood of the shelf seems to absorb their fragrance, so that even when the jars are moved, the air remains softly perfumed. Sometimes, the making of perfume becomes a quiet lesson in patience. A jar of oil may be left to sit for weeks with spices steeping inside, the liquid turning richer and darker each day. Your mother lifts the lid now and then, letting the scent escape in a small, intoxicating cloud before sealing it again. When the steeping is done, the oil is stronger, more complex, carrying the memory of every day it has rested in the dark. When the work is finished, your hands are oily from helping, and your hair smells faintly of the ingredients you fanned for so long. You are cleaned quickly with a damp cloth, but the perfume clings to you like a secret. Later, as you lie down for your nap, the scent is still there, woven into your skin, reminding you of the grinding of petals, the warm glow of oil in the bronze pan, and the slow, careful hands that taught you beauty can be made from what the river and the desert offer. In this place, perfume is not just a luxury, it is a way of keeping the essence of life close, captured in a jar, ready to be uncorked whenever the day calls for it.
By the time your baby teeth have begun to show bright and small in your smile, you are already part of another tradition, keeping those teeth clean and, if fortune smiles on your family, making them beautiful. For most, oral care is not a matter of vanity alone, but a way to guard against the toothaches and infections that can make daily life miserable. In this land of bread ground with grit from stone mills, teeth wear down early. The fine sand from grinding stones laces every meal, making even soft bread a slow weapon against enamel. Your elders know this well, which is why from an early age you were given a simple tool, a frayed stick, usually from the Salvador persica tree, whose fibers are soft enough not to harm your gums, yet sturdy enough to scrape away the sticky film of the day's meals. In the mornings, your mother dips one end of the stick into a paste she makes from crushed rock salt and dried mint leaves, pounding them together until they form a coarse powder. The taste is sharp at first, salty with a whisper of green freshness, and it lingers on your tongue even after the brushing is done. You gnaw the stick gently as she guides it along your teeth, the fibers spreading to reach into small spaces. It is not an unpleasant ritual, though you sometimes squirm when the bristles tickle your gums. For the wealthier families, tooth care can become something far more elaborate, and you will see hints of it when traders pass through or when a festival brings strangers into town. Some smile to reveal teeth inlaid with tiny gems, turquoise, carnelian, even slivers of gold. These decorations are not only a sign of wealth, but also an invitation for admiration, a way to display status every time the mouth opens to speak or laugh. Such adornment requires the skill of a specialist, who drills carefully into the tooth and sets the stone with resin. It is a painful process, one your own family could never afford, and perhaps that is a mercy. For while beautiful, these jeweled smiles often come at the cost of aching jaws and tender gums. Among your own people, the more practical beauty lies in keeping teeth bright and breath fresh. Chewing aromatic herbs is common, coriander seeds, fennel, or fresh mint plucked from the garden. After meals, your father sometimes hands you a small sprig, and you chew it slowly, the burst of flavor a pleasant contrast to the earthy taste of bread and onions. The seeds leave your mouth tingling, and when you speak afterward, your words carry a faint sweetness.
Dentistry, when needed, is a different matter entirely. You are too young to face it now, but you have heard the stories. The healer with bronze tools and steady hands who can scrape away decay,
or pack a cavity with honey and crushed herbs to ease the pain. Honey is more than a sweetener here. It is a healer, prized for its ability to soothe and protect. Sometimes it is mixed with ground barley or natron and pressed into a sore tooth as a kind of poultice. It does not cure the deeper damage, but it can make life bearable until the tooth loosens and falls away. You watch your mother at night, sitting by the oil lamp, running the cleaning stick along her own teeth with practiced care. Her motions are rhythmic, almost meditative, and when she is done, she rinses her mouth with water, scented lightly with mint. She checks your teeth before bed, running her finger gently along the small, even row, nodding in satisfaction when she finds no sharp edge or dark spot. It is not just your health she guards. Straight, clean teeth are seen as part of the face you present to the world, a sign that you are well kept and cared for. Once, during a visit to the marketplace, you catch sight of a noblewoman leaning from her litter to speak to a merchant. Her smile flashes in the sun, and you hear the glint of a tiny lapis stone set into one of her front teeth. The effect is dazzling, and you hear murmurs ripple through the crowd. It is a reminder that in this world, beauty can be found even in the smallest details, and that the mouth, used for speaking prayers, for sharing food, for kissing a child's head, is also a place where status and identity are displayed. At home, your own smile is simpler, but no less valued. After your evening meal, your mother hands you the familiar stick again, and you chew its end until it softens, brushing along your gums until the day's bread and herbs are nothing but a faint memory. The oil lamp flickers, casting gold light over your face, and the scent of mint rises again. This is how you will end countless days, breath clean, teeth smooth, your mouth carrying the quiet assurance that tomorrow you will greet the sun with a smile that is both cared for and entirely your own.
Night in your household does not mean the end of beauty or cleanliness. If anything, the hours before sleep carry their own small luxuries. Garments softened by repeated washing, linens scented with powdered myrrh, and the slow cooling of the air that makes these moments feel almost like an embrace. Your sleeping place is simple. A low wooden frame, sometimes just a woven mat, layered with sheets of linen. These linens are never left plain. Even in modest homes, they are perfumed in quiet, deliberate ways. Earlier in the day, your mother shook the sheets out in the courtyard, letting the sun touch them briefly before she dusted them with a fine powder made by grinding dried myrrh resin into dust, sometimes mixed with a pinch of saffron for color and a warmer scent. As she did so, she hummed a tune, and the tiny motes of fragrant powder rose like golden mist in the afternoon light before settling into the weave of the cloth. When you lie down, the scent is subtle but unmistakable, earthy, resinous, with just enough sweetness to make the air feel richer. It is not overpowering, it's a background note, something that lingers without demanding attention. The linen itself is cool against your skin at first, then warming quickly under your body. The smell of the sheets mingles with the faint perfume of your own oiled skin, forming a personal fragrance that you carry into sleep. Your clothing, too, is touched by this quiet care. Everyday tunics are washed in water mixed with ground herbs, mint, chamomile, sometimes even crushed lotus petals if they are plentiful. The rinsing water is poured away at the base of the garden plants, the perfumed runoff feeding the soil. Once dry, the tunics are folded with small cloth sachets filled with dried lavender or marjoram tucked inside, so that when they are worn again, they release a light fragrance that clings for hours. This isn't mere indulgence. It helps mask the harsher smells of daily life, the smoke of cooking fires, the tang of fish from the river, the dust of the streets. For special occasions, the clothing is given more elaborate attention. Your mother will rub cedar oil into the fabric before washing,
allowing the fibers to absorb its sharp, clean scent. Then, the garment is dried in partial shade to keep it from fading, and finally pressed smooth with a rounded stone, the weight gliding over the cloth until it lies flat and almost shines. You watch this process from your corner, fascinated by how a simple length of linen can be transformed into something that looks and feels entirely different.
At night, after your bath and the oiling of your skin, you are dressed in one of these freshly scented tunics, its fibers soft and familiar, and placed onto the linen bed. The scent of the myrrh-dusted sheets wraps around you like an invisible blanket, and you can hear the soft rustle as your body shifts, releasing tiny puffs of fragrance into the air. Around you, the household settles into quiet, the low murmur of your parents speaking, the creak of a reed mat as someone moves in the next room, the faint rhythmic thud of a pestle from a neighbor finishing the day's last chore. In wealthier homes, the care of linens and garments reaches even greater levels. Perfumed cones made of solidified fat and resin are stored in jars, ready to be placed in chests or atop garments, slowly melting over days to release their scent. Clothing might be embroidered with threads lightly coated in fragrant oils, so that each movement of the wearer sends out a delicate wave of perfume. You have not worn such finery, but you have smelled it when passing nobles in the marketplace, the trail of scent lingering long after they have gone. Even in your more humble surroundings, the effect is powerful. The scents embedded in your clothes and bedding become part of your identity. They tell those around you that you are cared for, that your family values cleanliness and comfort, that even in a world of dust and heat, softness and beauty can be cultivated. In the quiet before sleep, when the oil lamp is extinguished and darkness folds over the room, the fragrances remain, steady and familiar, carrying you toward dreams scented with myrrh, saffron, and the faint memory of cedar carried on the night air.
Your world begins to stretch beyond the reach of your courtyard as traders arrive from faraway lands, their boats heavy with goods whose scents and textures feel almost impossible to imagine until they are right before you. These are the exotic imports, the treasures that make even your elders lean in for a closer look, fingers brushing over surfaces as though touching a story. The first you encounter is an ointment from Punt, the land your mother speaks of with a half smile, as if she is recalling an old song. The jar is small, carved from ivory, its lid wrapped in reed cord, and when it is opened, the smell rolls out in a wave both sweet and wild, like the desert blooming after rain. It is thicker than your family's usual oils, a paste that warms against the skin and leaves behind a sheen so rich it seems to glow in the light. Beside it sits a bundle of cinnamon sticks, tied with a strip of palm fiber, their reddish-brown bark curling at the edges. They have come from far beyond the Red Sea, passed from hand to hand through merchants who speak in languages you do not know. The smell is unlike anything that grows along the Nile, spicy, warm, with a sharpness that lingers at the back of your throat. Your mother crumbles a small piece into oil, watching it darken slowly as the scent deepens. When the oil is smoothed over skin, it carries not just fragrance, but the suggestion of distance, of a place you have never seen but can almost picture in your mind. Then there are the shells, smooth, gleaming, their curves capturing light like polished stone. They are not meant for decoration alone. Ground to powder, they become a soft, pale dust used to lighten the skin or give a faint shimmer to the cheeks. You watch as your aunt sits with a flat grinding stone, reducing a once whole shell to fine powder, her movements slow and precise. When she mixes it with oil, it becomes a pearly paste that glints faintly under the sun, turning her skin into something almost otherworldly. Some imports are even stranger. A small lump of gum from a tree that grows where the air is said to taste of salt, used for chewing to sweeten the breath. A folded pouch of dried saffron threads, their color so deep they seem to bleed gold when soaked in oil. A jar of black resin so sticky that it clings to the fingers like honey, but smells of smoke and night air. These things arrive irregularly,
as dependent on the moods of trade winds as on the skill of merchants, and when they do appear, they are used sparingly, as though each drop or pinch holds a season's worth of value.
The marketplace on days like this becomes a theater. Merchants lay out their imported wares on linen cloths, the goods surrounded by curious onlookers. A woman leans in to smell a pot of ointment, her eyes closing as if she is momentarily somewhere else. A man runs a shell across his cheekbone, admiring the faint gleam it leaves behind. Children stand on tiptoe to see, their noses wrinkling at the unfamiliar sharpness of cinnamon or the resin's smoky depth. Even you, perched on your mother's hip, feel the pull of these scents, different from the earthy familiarity of your own oils and herbs, sharper, more layered, hinting at lands where the air and soil birth things your river never has. When the goods are brought home, there is a quiet ceremony in their unpacking. The imported ointment is transferred into smaller jars for safekeeping. The cinnamon is wrapped again to keep its scent from escaping. The powdered shell is stored in a cool, dry place. Not everything will be used right away. Some things will wait for a festival, for a wedding, for a moment deemed worthy of their rarity. In the meantime, the household air holds traces of them, subtle reminders that the world is larger than the stretch of river and fields you know. It is in these moments you understand that beauty here is not only local, it is shaped by what comes from beyond, by scents and textures born in lands you may never walk, but which nonetheless seep into your life through oil, powder, and resin. You are still too young to trade or travel, yet already you are touched by places far from the Nile, carried to you in jars and bundles and shells that hold the weight of distance. They remind you, even before you can name the thought, that to care for the body here is also to connect with the wide, unseen world beyond the desert's edge.
The seasons turn, and with them come the great festivals, when the ordinary rhythms of washing, oiling, and scenting yourself swell into something grander, brighter, and altogether more elaborate. On these days, beauty is not simply a matter of cleanliness or protection. It is a performance, a declaration to the gods, your neighbors, and even to yourself that you are part of something larger. You were woken early, the air still cool and carrying the faint smell of the river before the day's heat settles over it. In the courtyard, a low table has already been set with bowls of pigment, pots of scented oil, combs, and the tools for braiding hair and arranging wigs. The household hums with preparation. Voices are softer than usual, focused on the work of transforming everyone into their festival selves. Your wig is taken down, its braids loosened and combed through until each strand lies smooth. Fresh resin is warmed and worked into the hair, giving it a gloss that catches the light. Then the wig is rebraided, tighter and neater than usual, with small fans beads woven in near the temples so that they sway lightly when you turn your head. If you are older, your hair might be dyed with henna or curled into intricate patterns, but for now, neatness and ornament are enough. Your skin is rubbed with a richer oil than usual, one thick with myrrh, cinnamon, and sweet marjoram. The scent is intoxicating, and it lingers in the air around you like a soft cloud. A small cone of solid perfume, made of scented fat mixed with crushed flowers, is placed gently atop your head. It will melt slowly in the heat of the day, releasing its fragrance into the air and allowing the oil to trickle through your hair and down your neck in a slow, invisible stream. It is said that by the end of the festival, the cone will be gone, its essence absorbed into you. Face painting is next. Today's kohl is applied more boldly, extending beyond the natural line of your eyelid in the shape of a falcon's wing, a tribute to Horus. The malachite green is brighter too, ground fresh and mixed with just enough oil to make it glide over your skin without smudging. Even your cheeks are touched with a faint reddish tint made from crushed ochre mixed with a drop of oil to give you the warmth of the desert's own sun.
Clothing is chosen carefully. A fresh linen tunic, pressed smooth and scented lightly with cedar. Around your neck, a small string of beads is tied, its colors bright against the pale fabric. For adults, the jewelry is heavier, broad collars of gold and faience, wide bracelets that chime softly with movement. But even the smallest child is given something to wear that glints in the light. When you step into the street, the world itself has changed. The air is alive with the scent of many perfumes mingling, lotus, frankincense, cinnamon, resin, until it feels like walking through a living cloud of fragrance. Painted faces and braided wigs catch the sun, turning the crowd into a shifting tapestry of color and light. Musicians play along the route of the procession, their flutes and drums keeping time with the slow, measured steps of dancers whose skin gleams with oil and whose eyes are rimmed in dark, protective kohl. You are carried in your mother's arms through the festival crowd, your own small cone of perfume already softening under the sun. Around you, everyone's beauty seems amplified, skin polished, garments fresh, hair arranged in styles far too elaborate for daily life. But there is no vanity here, as you might imagine it. These are offerings. Each person is, in their own way, presenting themselves to the gods, showing that they have prepared their bodies as they would prepare an altar, cleaned, adorned, and made worthy of blessing. By the time the procession reaches the temple, the sun is high, and the cones of perfume have begun to melt in earnest. The air is warm with the mingled scents of oil, incense, and sweat. Prayers are spoken, offerings laid at the feet of statues, and the crowd sways gently in time with the music. You may not remember every word or every face, but you will remember the sensation, the way beauty became a shared language, how every person around you seemed to shine not only in their appearance, but in the way they carried themselves, proud and present in this moment of celebration. When the day ends and you return home, the oil on your skin is still fragrant, the beads in your hair still cool against your scalp. The cone of perfume is gone, absorbed into you, leaving behind only the faintest trace of scent. The pigments on your face have blurred a little, softened by heat and movement, but they are still there, a reminder that for one day, your beauty was not just for you. It was part of something far greater, something that bound you to your people, your gods, and the turning of the seasons.
By the time you begin to understand the differences between ordinary days and the rarefied world of the palace, you have already seen glimpses of a standard of beauty and grooming that far surpasses what you know at home. The first time you are taken into the outer court of a noble's residence, the air itself feels different, cooler, rushed, or improvised. It is rehearsed daily like a sacred ritual. Even before you see the nobles themselves, you notice the tools: ivory combs inlaid with gold, polished copper mirrors that gleam in the sunlight, delicate jars of oil carved from alabaster so smooth they almost seem to glow from within. The lady of the house sits before one such mirror, a servant kneeling behind her with an ivory comb in one hand and a jar of scented resin in the other. The hair, whether her own or an exquisitely crafted wig, is separated into sections and worked with oil until it lies flat and lustrous, then braided into complex patterns that are secured with beads of faience and gold. The process is slow, lasting hours, and each stage is accompanied by small refinements: a touch more kohl to the eyes, a trace of crushed carnelian along the lips, a light dusting of powdered shell to the cheeks for a soft shimmer. Men of the court are no less meticulous. You see them seated in shaded lodges, having their heads shaved to perfect smoothness by barbers whose copper razors glint like the river at midday.
Their bodies are rubbed with oil until the skin gleams, then wrapped in fine linen garments so sheer they seem almost woven from sunlight. A small servant follows behind with a jar of scented ointment, ready to offer a dab to the wrists or neck at a moment's notice. The scent of the court is unlike anything in the streets. Layered, deliberate, a weaving of imported resins, lotus oil, cinnamon, and something sharper, perhaps cedar or juniper, lingering in the background. It is not a single note, but a chord, each fragrance chosen to complement the others. You breathe it in without meaning to, the air rich enough to make your head feel light. In these circles, mirrors are not simply tools for checking one's reflection. They are instruments of transformation. A mirror here is large enough to show the whole upper body, polished so clearly that it seems to hold a piece of the sun within it. Servants angle them to catch the best light, while the person being groomed tilts their head, watching each movement of the comb, each placement of jewelry, as if overseeing the construction of a temple.
Jewelry, too, is part of the grooming. Necklaces are layered so that they fall in a perfect curve against the collarbone. Bracelets are chosen for the way they catch the light when hands are moved in greeting or during conversation. Even rings, worn on oiled fingers, are polished before being put on so that no dust dulls their surface. These are not mere decorations. They are calculated signals of status, wealth, and refinement, each as carefully considered as the scent or the hair arrangement. You notice how much of this beauty is built by hands other than the wearers. Servants work in teams, one braiding, another applying oil, another arranging clothing, moving around the seated noble like parts of a single organism. There is an unspoken hierarchy even here. The most trusted attendants handle the face and hair, while others manage the garments and jewelry. A dropped comb or a smudged line of kohl is corrected instantly, as though any flaw, no matter how small, might ripple outward into the entire presentation. When a noble finally rises from the stool, fully prepared, there is no mistaking the difference between them and the common passerby. The skin is luminous, the hair or wig perfectly arranged, the garments uncreased, the fragrance layered and lingering in their wake. This is beauty as a display of power, as much a political tool as it is a personal indulgence. To be well groomed here is to command attention without speaking, to carry an aura that says everything before a word is uttered. As you leave the court, the impressions linger. The feel of smooth ivory under your fingertips when you briefly touched a comb, the gleam of a mirror catching the light, the perfume that seemed to follow you even into the street. You understand that while daily grooming at home binds your family together, grooming here binds the court to its own image, ensuring that every appearance reinforces a hierarchy as carefully maintained as the shine on a polished copper razor.
You are still a child when you begin to understand that beauty and cleanliness are not only for ornament. They can heal, soothe, and protect. The same oils and herbs that make skin shine or hair smell sweet are often the first medicines reached for when the body complains. It begins simply, a small bump on your arm from where an insect bit you while you napped in the courtyard. Your grandmother, without hesitation, mixes a paste from crushed mint leaves and cool water, pressing it gently to your skin. The sting fades almost immediately, replaced by the cooling green smell of the mint. She tells you it keeps the swelling down and warns away further bites, her voice steady as though she is reciting a truth older than the walls around you. Honey is another cure you come to know early. When your cousin scrapes her knee chasing a ball through the alley, your mother cleans the wound with natron water before smoothing on a thick layer of golden honey. Its sweetness hides its strength. It seals the wound from dust and pests, draws out heat, and leaves behind a faint perfume when it is later washed away. The same honey, mixed with crushed herbs like basil or fenugreek, becomes a salve for rough or cracked skin,
especially during the dry months when the desert wind seems to drink the moisture from your body. For coughs, your aunt reaches for a jar of date syrup infused with ground coriander. The syrup coats the throat, sweet and spiced, while the coriander's warmth seems to push the illness back toward the air. She gives you a spoonful when your voice goes hoarse after too much shouting during play, and though you are skeptical at first, the smooth sweetness is so pleasant you almost forget it is meant as medicine. Mineral powders too serve double duty. The same ochre that colors cheeks and festival finery can be mixed with animal fat and pressed over small wounds to keep them clean. Malachite powder, known for lining the eyes against glare, is sometimes dabbed lightly around an insect bite to dry it out. These treatments are so woven into daily life that they never feel like medicine. They are simply what one does, the natural continuation of grooming into healing. Sometimes the rituals blur entirely. When your father comes home from sunburnt shoulders from a day in the fields, your mother oils his skin with moringa until it glistens, both to soothe the burn and to keep the skin from peeling. When your grandmother massages oil into your scalp to make your wig fit more comfortably, she murmurs that it will also keep you free from headaches. The boundaries between health and beauty dissolve in such moments, leaving only the sense that to be cared for in this way is to be whole.
Even the scents are part of the cure. Frankincense, burned for its sacred smoke, is also thought to clear congested chests. A cloth soaked in rose water is draped across a fevered forehead, the floral scent calming the mind as the coolness eases the heat. In the bath, certain herbs, chamomile for calming, thyme for strength, are added to the water so that their properties seep into the skin while their fragrance drifts into the air. You begin to notice that the same hands that braid hair or line eyes are the ones that press healing salves into the skin or tie protective amulets around a wrist. In your world, care for the body is not divided into beauty on one side and medicine on the other. It is a single practice, each gesture layered with both. A comb can untangle hair and catch signs of illness in the scalp. A jar of oil can make skin shine and dry out heat from a burn. The pot of coal on the shelf might just as easily be used to paint eyes for a festival or to protect them during a sandstorm. On nights when illness lingers in the house, the air grows heavier with these scents and textures. Bowls of steaming water laced with herbs stand in corners. Cloths soaked in oil and resin are pressed to chests, and soft songs are sung to distract from discomfort. The same tools of beauty, linen cloths, fragrant oils, powders, become instruments of comfort, the line between the two purposes entirely invisible. As you drift to sleep after one such day, your arms still faintly cool from the mint paste, and your skin carrying the faint sweetness of honey, you realize that here, healing is not a thing apart. It is simply another face of the same devotion that oils your skin in the morning, braids your hair in the afternoon, and perfumes your sheets at night. A devotion that sees the body as something worth tending in every way, whether for beauty, for health, or for both at once.
You are no longer the small, swaddled bundle that first opened its eyes under the midwife's careful watch. Your limbs have lengthened, your features sharpened, and though the heat of the Egyptian sun still darkens your skin each season, you now carry yourself with the quiet awareness of someone who has learned the art of looking after their body. In your world, aging is not a silent slide toward decline. It is a deliberate process of holding on to vitality and grace as long as the river holds to its course. Elders around you wear their years with the same care they give to their garments and hair, as if each line on their face is not an imperfection, but an ornament to be polished. Your grandmother, whose back bends slightly now when she works, still rubs her skin with oil every morning, as faithfully as she did in her youth. She uses richer blends these days, thick with frankincense and moringa, massaging them into her arms until the skin gleams. She dyes the wisps of hair that peek from beneath her wig with henna, turning them a warm reddish brown that catches the light.
The wig itself, braided, perfumed, and always kept neat, is her crown, and she never greets the day without it, even if she plans to see only the walls of her courtyard. Your grandfather is no less particular. He still shaves his head smooth every few days, and the copper razor flashes in the morning sun as he works. His beard, once black, is now streaked with gray, but he oils it carefully, combing it until it lies soft against his chin. His garments are always fresh, and he refuses to wear linen that has lost its brightness. To him, looking well kept is a statement to the gods as much as to his neighbors, that he remains worthy of respect, no matter the number of seasons he has seen. There are remedies to ease the passage of time, and you see them used with quiet discipline. Wrinkles are softened with salves of beeswax and resin. Skin that has lost its suppleness is rubbed with oil infused with chamomile or lily petals. Tired joints are massaged with warm sesame oil until they loosen and ache less. Even the eyes, dimmed slightly with age, are refreshed with drops made from steeped herbs, cooling and soothing after long days under the sun.
At gatherings, you notice that older women still line their eyes with kohl and dust their cheeks with ochre. The colors may be softer now, the gestures less dramatic than those of youth, but the intention is the same: to greet others with a face that reflects care and dignity. Men, too, apply light fragrance to their necks and wrists, a habit carried from younger years into old age, as much for their own comfort as for the company they keep. You begin to understand that this persistence is not vanity. In a land where the desert wind dries the skin, where dust settles into every crease, and where labor carves its marks into hands and backs, caring for the body is an act of resilience. It says, "I will not let the years strip away the parts of me that make me feel whole." And it is more than just the oils and pigments. It is the way they walk, shoulders back, head high, as if to tell the world that beauty is not bound to youth alone. Sometimes, as you help your grandmother oil her arms or fetch a fresh comb for your grandfather, you catch them looking at you with a faint smile. Perhaps they see themselves in your smooth skin and quick steps. Perhaps they remember the rituals they taught you when you were small. In those moments, the exchange of care feels like a circle. You learning from them, they holding on to habits that keep them connected to the person they have always been. On evenings when the family gathers, the elders sit in the best chairs, the flicker of the oil lamps making their skin shine faintly from the day's grooming. They talk of floods and harvests, of neighbors and faraway lands, and they do so with the ease of people who have not given themselves over to weariness. Their laughter is full, their voice is steady, and even when the joints creak and the backs stoop, they carry themselves as people who are still, in every sense, prepared to meet the day beautifully. In your mind, you begin to see aging as they do. Not a dimming, but a steady burn, kept alive by the same rituals that have always shaped life here. The oil rubbed into skin each morning, the careful tending of hair, the touch of color at the eyes, the fragrance that lingers in the air long after they pass. And you know that when your own hair turns gray and your hands grow lined, you will reach for the same oils and combs, not to hold on to youth, but to honor the self that has walked with you through every season of the Nile's flow.
You are old enough now to notice that beauty in your world is not only crafted through oils, pigments, and combs, but also guarded by charms, whispers, and the unseen weight of superstition. There is a belief, as old as the first stone temples, that the body's appearance can be shaped or ruined by forces beyond the physical. To keep the skin smooth, the hair thick, and the eyes bright, people wear protections that have nothing to do with washing or oiling, yet are considered just as essential. You first see it when your mother ties a small leather pouch around your wrist. Inside are tiny fragments of herbs, coriander, myrrh, and a pinch of matron, along with a bead carved from turquoise.
She tells you this is not a toy, but a shield, meant to keep away the evil eye of those who might envy your health or your looks. It is tied tight enough that you feel its weight when you move, and though you cannot see what is inside without breaking the seal, the faint scent of the herbs escapes when the wind shifts. Some charms are worn openly, like amulets carved in the shape of the Eye of Horus, hung on a cord so they rest against the chest. Others are hidden in hair braids or sewn into the hems of garments. There is one your grandmother wears that fascinates you, a small pendant shaped like a frog, which she swears keeps her skin from wrinkling too quickly. Whether or not it works, she oils her face twice daily and refuses to go a single day without it. There are also whispered spells, often spoken during grooming. As your aunt braids your hair, she murmurs a short phrase under her breath, asking the gods to keep your locks thick and strong. When kohl is applied to your eyes, sometimes the person doing it will trace the line and quietly recite a charm to protect your sight and preserve the brightness of your gaze. These incantations are so common that you hardly notice them. They're simply part of the rhythm of care. Certain days are thought to be better for grooming than others. Cutting hair or nails during the wrong phase of the moon, people say, can invite misfortune or dull your beauty. On auspicious days, however, the courtyards and bathhouses are busier, the air rich with the scent of oils and resins, as everyone seizes the moment to tend themselves under favorable skies. Some families keep small clay tablets marked with symbols to track these days, consulting them before planning a major grooming session or preparing for a festival.
There are remedies, too, made purely from belief that weave beauty with protection. A mixture of ground malachite and honey, for example, might be applied to a small mark on the skin, not for any medicinal property, but to prevent it from becoming possessed by ugliness. Lotus petals are sometimes worn in the hair overnight, not only to scent it, but to invite the flower's beauty into the wearer by morning. Even the way someone steps out into the sun can carry superstition. Elders warn against letting your shadow fall first into a gathering, for fear it will draw the wrong kind of attention to your appearance. Children, especially, are watched closely. A pretty child is thought to draw both admiration and danger, so their mothers might smudge a small dot of soot on the cheek or forehead to spoil the perfection, just enough to deflect envy. You have worn such a dot yourself, though it was wiped away the moment you crossed the threshold into your own courtyard, safe among family. What strikes you most is how these beliefs are never questioned, even by those who know how to grind the finest powders or blend the most fragrant oils. Beauty is seen as a fragile thing, constantly threatened by time, illness, and unseen forces, and so every tool, physical or spiritual, is welcome. The comb smooths the hair, the oil softens the skin, and the amulet keeps the gods' favor. At night, as you are wrapped in your linen for sleep, the turquoise bead at your wrist catches the faint light from the oil lamp. The scent of the day's oil still lingers on your skin, but now it is mixed with the subtle comfort of knowing that charms and blessings lie between you and whatever might wish you harm. Whether these protections work in the way they are intended is not something you think to ask. In your world, beauty and safety are woven together so tightly that to care for one is to guard the other, and superstition is simply another layer of the fragrance, the sheen, and the touch that keep you whole.
You begin to notice that the rituals of beauty and care are not only for the self, they are also a kind of language, a way of speaking without words when eyes linger a little longer, when someone passes just close enough for their scent to brush against you. Courtship in your world is steeped in fragrance, color, and touch, each gesture carrying meaning as deliberate as the lines of kohl around an eye. You see it first in the older youths of your village,
their hair oiled more carefully on days when they know a certain someone will be near, their garments freshly laundered and scented with cedar or sweet marjoram, even if it means using a little more of the family's store than they should. Perfumed gifts are among the most direct signs of interest. A small alabaster jar of oil, offered discreetly, carries an intimacy far greater than its size suggests. It means the giver wishes the scent to linger on the skin of the one they admire, so that each time it is worn, the connection is renewed. You watch your older cousin receive such a gift, a jar of lotus-infused oil wrapped in linen and tied with a blue thread, and though she pretends not to be moved, the way she holds it a little longer in her hand tells its own story. There is the art of painted messages, too. At festivals or market days, you notice some will alter the usual way they wear their kohl, extending the line just slightly, thickening it at the outer corner, or choosing a brighter malachite green than usual. These changes are not random, they are signals, meant for certain eyes to catch. Lips dusted with a trace of ochre, or touched with a faint sheen of oil are another quiet invitation. Hair and wigs play their role as well. A man might weave a fresh strip of dyed cloth into his braid when he intends to catch the attention of someone in the crowd. A woman might add extra beads to the ends of her braids, letting them click softly when she turns her head. These are not grand declarations. They are hints, so small that they can be ignored if the interest is not returned, yet obvious enough to those who know how to look.
Scent is perhaps the boldest form of allure. You have walked through the market and caught a fragrance so carefully layered, lotus for sweetness, cinnamon for warmth, frankincense for depth, that it makes you turn to see who wears it. Lovers or would-be lovers might trade these blends, each adapting them to their own skin, so the shared fragrance becomes a private language. In the hush of evening, you have overheard the softest laughter in the courtyard when someone arrives carrying just such a scent, the unspoken understanding passing between them like a secret note. Even gifts not directly wearable can be steeped in beauty's language. A small pouch of dried rose petals might be given to keep among linens, so that each night the scent is released when the bedding is moved. A carved comb, polished smooth and lightly scented with resin, says, "I wish to be part of your daily care." These tokens are treasured, not only for their practical use, but for the connection they represent. You have seen the way hands linger during grooming when affection is present. The act of braiding hair becomes slower, more deliberate. The smoothing of oil across the arm is done with a lighter touch, the fingers tracing just a little farther than necessary. Even the offering of a protective amulet can carry double meaning, as if to say, "I wish not only to keep you safe from harm, but to keep you close." And there are playful rivalries too. At public gatherings, you notice how one woman might stand a little closer to the firelight so her jewelry gleams brighter, or how a man might position himself upwind so his perfume drifts toward the object of his interest before he even speaks. Compliments are given in the guise of casual remarks. "Your kohl is steady today," or "That oil smells as though it came from Punt." But each lands with a weight the listener feels. As you watch and listen, you begin to understand that in your world, beauty is not only about pleasing the gods or preserving the skin against the desert air. It is also about reaching toward another person, offering them something to see, to smell, to remember.
It is only when you are older, able to stand still through long ceremonies without fidgeting, that you are allowed to watch the final preparation of a body for its journey into the afterlife. It is a strange mix of the familiar and the solemn. So many of the same oils, cloths, and scents you have known all your life, now used with a different purpose, each gesture weighted with the knowledge that it will be the last time these hands touch this skin. The work begins in a cool, shaded room where the air is thick with incense. Frankincense and myrrh burn slowly in wide bronze bowls, their smoke curling upward in steady columns, as if guiding the spirit toward the sky. The body is first washed,
much as you were washed in your earliest days. Water poured in slow streams over the limbs, the head cradled and rinsed, the skin rubbed gently with natron to cleanse and preserve. The same grainy texture that once brushed against your newborn skin is now used here, though this time it is not for protecting life, but for slowing its departure. Even the way the cloth moves across the skin feels deliberate, the strokes long and even, as though smoothing not only the flesh, but the soul itself. After washing, the body is anointed with oil. The scent is rich, layered, and almost overwhelming. Lotus for purity, cedar for preservation, cinnamon for warmth. The oil glistens on the skin under the dim light, and the attendants move with a quiet precision, rubbing it into every fold and crease. It is as if they are telling the body, you will arrive before the gods as whole and beautiful as you once were among the living. Hair, or the wig that replaces it, is treated with as much care as the skin. Strands are combed smooth, oiled and arranged neatly, sometimes with beads or a strip of linen tied at the temples. Even if the journey ahead is unseen, the body must appear ready, a reflection of the dignity the person held in life. The eyes are lined with kohl, just as yours are in the morning, the black pigment shaping the gaze even in death, protecting it against the glare of both the desert sun and whatever brightness awaits in the afterlife.
Garments are chosen with the same attention as for a festival day. Fine linen, sometimes sheer and light, is wrapped and layered, the folds straightened until they lie perfectly flat. Jewelry, necklaces, bracelets, amulets, is placed carefully, each piece chosen not only for beauty, but for protection. A scarab might rest over the heart, an eye of Horus near the throat, a small charm tied to the wrist. These are not decorations to impress the living, but talismans to guard the dead. The face, too, is tended like a treasured portrait. A touch of red ochre might be brushed onto the cheeks to restore the warmth of life, the lips smoothed with a hint of scented balm so that they do not crack in the dry air. The attendants speak little, their voices low and measured, as if they are aware that the one they dress is listening from somewhere just out of sight. When the final layers of linen are wrapped, the fragrance in the room is dense enough to taste. It is the same blend of earth, flour, and resin that has surrounded your own grooming rituals since birth. Yet here, it feels different, heavier, more final, yet still filled with care. You realize that death, in your world, is not an abandonment of beauty, but its last and perhaps most devoted expression. To present the body well is to honor the life it carried, to send it forward with the dignity it deserves. Standing there, you think of how each stage of your life has been marked by these same textures and scents, from the natron baths of your infancy to the oils rubbed into your skin before festivals. Now you see the same care given to someone who will not open their eyes again, and it feels like a circle closing. Beauty and cleanliness are not just for the living. They are threads that tie the living and the dead together, ensuring that even in the final moment, the body remains a vessel of grace.
When the body is prepared and the mourners have offered their farewells, there is still the matter of what will travel with it into eternity. You have seen this part before, in smaller ceremonies for neighbors, but when it is someone close, you notice the details more sharply. The way each object is placed, as if it has its own story to tell. Inside the tomb or burial chamber, there is space not only for the body, wrapped and scented, but also for the tools of beauty and care that were part of daily life. The dead will need these things in the afterlife, just as surely as they needed them along the banks of the Nile. The first to be placed are the combs. Some are simple wood, worn smooth by years of use. Others are carved from ivory with teeth so fine they catch the light. They are laid near the head, as if to ensure that hair, real or wig, can be kept as neat in the field of reeds as it was in the courtyard at home. Alongside them go small jars of oil and perfume, sealed tightly with beeswax to keep their scents alive for as long as possible. The alabaster jars feel cool in the hand, their pale stone holding the promise of lotus, myrrh, and cinnamon that will be released again when the time is right. Mirrors, too, are essential companions. Made from polished copper or bronze, they catch the lamplight one last time before being wrapped in linen and set beside the body. A mirror is more than a way to check one's face. It is a symbol of the sun, a tool to reflect light into the new world the soul is entering. Some say the gods themselves see you first through your mirror, noting whether you have arrived with dignity. Garments are folded carefully, even if they will never be worn again. Fine linen tunics, sashes, and headcloths are stacked with sashes of dried herbs tucked between them, so that they carry the scent of home into the afterlife. A small chest might hold cosmetics, powdered malachite for the eyes, red ochre for the cheeks, a tiny stick for applying kohl. These items are not merely for appearance, they are protective, just as they were in life, guarding the eyes from glare and the skin from the harsh breath of the desert winds beyond death's gate.
Sometimes, the burial includes more personal treasures. A favorite amulet, worn for years at the wrist, is tied in place again, even if the cord is frayed. A wig, woven with care and still faintly scented with resin, is laid within reach. For a woman, perhaps a necklace that was a gift from her mother. For a man, a small pouch of herbs he once carried for good fortune. These are tokens that say, you were loved, and you are remembered. Even tools of daily grooming, bronze tweezers, small blades for shaving, are placed inside. The reasoning is simple. In the afterlife, you will still wish to be as you were here, clean, well-kept, and pleasing to behold. To appear before the gods disheveled would be unthinkable. The preparation ensures that you step into eternity as a reflection of your best self. Children, too, are sent with these things: a small comb no bigger than a hand, a vial of lightly scented oil, perhaps a soft cloth that once served as a blanket. These are placed gently, not out of utility alone, but out of the belief that comfort follows you beyond the world you know. As the tomb is sealed, the air inside is thick with the mingled scents of oil, resin, and dried herbs, each one a fragment of the life just lived. The objects rest quietly, waiting, their purpose suspended until the moment the soul reaches the place where the river runs forever and the air is always sweet. You have stood in such a place before, holding a jar or a comb before handing it to the attendant, and felt the weight of it, not for its size, but for the life it represents. You leave knowing that these treasures are not meant to be buried and forgotten. They are part of the person, as vital to their eternal self as the body itself. The field of reeds, they say, is a place where the best parts of life are restored. And with these combs, mirrors, oils, and garments, the dead will step into it as they once stepped out into the bright streets of the living city, polished, perfumed, and whole.
In the final stage of your journey, you are no longer the child whose head was shaved in the courtyard, nor the youth learning to braid beads into hair for festivals. You have lived a full life, worn the oils of summer and the perfumes of feast days, carried the amulets of protection, and watched your reflection age in copper mirrors. Now, in the stillness after the last breath, the hands that once tended you return, completing the circle they began on the day you were born. You are washed again in warm water, laced with natron and lotus petals, the same cleansing you first knew as an infant, though now the air is quieter, the movement slower, the purpose different. Your skin is anointed with the richest oils, myrrh for dignity, cedar for preservation, cinnamon for warmth, lotus for purity, each drop pressed into the flesh with reverence. The scent rises in the cool room, mingling with the smoke of frankincense curling upward toward the ceiling, as though it might carry word of your passing to the gods. Your hair, Whether your own or the wig you favored in life is arranged with care, beads aligned, braids smoothed, and the sheen of resin catching the last light. Kohl lines your eyes once more, not for the glare of the sun now, but to meet the gaze of whatever lies beyond. The wrappings come next, linen upon linen, each strip laid flat and tucked with precision. Between the layers, small amulets are slipped into place, a scarab over the heart, the eye of Horus at the brow, a knot of Isis near the hands. These are your companions for the journey, each one chosen for its blessing, protection, strength, safe passage. Your lips are touched with balm, your cheeks brushed with ochre, so that in the afterlife you will look as alive as you once did on festival days. When the body is ready, the treasures you used in life are placed around you. The comb worn smooth by years of use, the alabaster jar still holding the faint scent of your favorite oil, the copper mirror that has shown you every version of yourself. Garments are folded nearby, their fibers soft from repeated washings, sachets of herbs tucked between them so they will open fragrant when you wear them again in the field of reeds. A wig, freshly scented, rests beside you, ready for days of feasts and long walks among the papyrus. The final offerings come from those who loved you. A carved pendant that once hung at your neck, a small jar of perfume saved for years, a piece of jewelry that carries the warmth of another's hands. These are laid gently, each with a silent wish that you will find joy where you are going. The tomb is closed slowly, not to shut you away, but to open the way for you to step into the next life, into a place where the Nile flows endlessly, the air is always scented, and the skin never cracks beneath the sun. In that eternal place, you will be as you are now, wrapped in linen soft as river mist, skin gleaming with oil, hair smooth and shining, garments scented and ready. You will walk among fields where the grain never wilts, sit in courtyards where the shade is always cool, and laugh with those who arrived before you, all of you perfect in the way only eternity allows. Beauty will not fade there. It will be the air you breathe, the water you drink, the light on your skin. And in this, the final truth of your life in the two lands is clear. You were born into care, lived within it, and will carry it with you forever, beyond the desert, beyond the sun, into the forever fields.
And now, as we leave you resting in that endless perfumed horizon, the story slows. The desert winds have softened to a low sigh, the Nile's waters no longer rushing, but lapping gently against their banks, as though time itself has chosen to move more carefully here. The scent of lotus drifts in the air, light and cool, mingling with the resinous warmth of myrrh, the two weaving together into something almost weightless. Your breathing matches this rhythm, slow, unhurried, each inhale deep and even, each exhale leaving the body lighter. The weight of linen wrappings, imagined or real, feels like the softest of blankets, holding you in place but never pressing too tightly. Above you, the light is warm but muted, like the last glow of sunset seen through gauze, gentle enough to make the eyes rest without effort. Somewhere nearby you can almost hear the faint murmur of voices, friends, family, loved ones, speaking in tones so low and calm they are closer to a hum than a word. They do not speak for you to answer. They speak to remind you that you are known, that you belong, that you are safe. The room, the riverbank, the courtyard, they fade together into one continuous space where nothing is urgent and nothing is unfinished. If you listen, there is the slow lap of water against stone, steady and hypnotic. The same water that once bathed you in infancy, that cooled your skin in summer, now flows without demand, only offering its sound as a guide into stillness. The faint warmth of oil lingers on your skin, carrying its fragrance into your thoughts, smoothing the edges of your mind
the way hands once smoothed it onto your arms and back. The story you have walked through, from birth to life to the gentle preparation for eternity, no longer feels like a sequence of events. It is one long, continuous breath, held in the palms of time. There is no rush to reach the end, because the end is simply another resting place, soft and welcoming. So you stay here, in this suspended moment, where the air is cool and fragrant, where the hands of those who cared for you seem to still hover nearby, ready to adjust your linens or smooth your hair. And in this space, there is nothing left to do but rest, deeply, peacefully, beautifully, until the next morning comes, or perhaps forever.